Hey guys, welcome to this session. And to explain what this session is about, let me give you a use case. We have APIs and tools and services. Sometimes there could be web-based services that are metered, meaning you have to pay for them. And the APIs, again, they're metered, micropayments, maybe 3 cents for utilizing it, all of that kind of stuff. So we've got them. Publishers have been working on metering and all of that kind of stuff for years and years and years, for humans to come in and click, say, you know what, I need to utilize this API, set up the payments, pay for it, and then utilize that service or whatever that content is through the web. Now, along come AI agents. Now, AI agents, we've been talking about them. They're intelligent, they can act, they can reason, they can select the right tools. But the minute they need to use a tool that is metered or an API that is metered, this is where they fail. And this is where Amazon Bedrock AgentCore Payments comes into play. So let's break this down. Okay, so we have our APIs, we've got our web content, it's monetized, it's metered, you pay for what you use. The agent now needs to utilize an API as a tool for a specific task or to help as part of a specific task. But it doesn't know how to pay for it can't pay for it, so it actually can't utilize it. So how do we enable that? So the way that AgentCore Payment goes about is it looks at the ecosystem of what's required. And the number one thing at the moment is you need a wallet. You need a wallet where you can actually store funds. So then when this scenario occurs, there's actually funds available that the agent can electronically help initiate a transfer of funds to the API publisher or the provider to pay that microtransaction. And let's say it's like 3 cents. So wallets is going to be key. So let's just drop that in here. Now, from a wallets perspective, there are a number of wallets already supported as part of the GA, and there were some available in preview. But let's just say these are wallets that need to be topped up by, let's say, users using credit cards, for example. They can even transfer USDC into these wallets. And then from that point onwards, it's a stable coin. It's microtransactions supported. Imagine if you were trying to pay microtransactions using a credit card. The credit card fee alone would be in excess of what it costs to use that API, let's say 3 cents, right? So let's have a look at what's actually supported so far. So we know that AgentCore Payments has been built in collaboration with Coinbase. So we have the Coinbase wallet, which is cool. Very popular as part of cryptocurrency. So you've got your Coinbase. And again, we're talking about micropayments. So we're talking about being able to make payments at scale, maybe hundreds of micropayments a day, thousands of micropayments a day. And that's key. This is not just about transferring money as a one-off. This is about automated micropayments at scale. So Coinbase is one of the wallets currently supported. And the second wallet that has been added in collaboration with is Stripe's Privy wallet. So let's drop Stripe in. We'll say Stripe. Yeah, we can fit that in. Privy wallet. Now, Coinbase's wallet, you can actually stay within the AgentCore console and actually create that Coinbase wallet and then top it up, for example, using the standard methods like credit card or USDC transfer. Stripe's Privy wallet, you need to go to the Privy dashboard, create everything you need, build out all the credentials, and then bring them into AgentCore and set that up. From a security perspective, the credentials are actually stored in AgentCore's Identity Secrets Manager. So the agent actually never sees the raw credentials, and short-lived tokens are then used to instruct the wallet providers and so on and so on. Okay, so what else do we need as part of the ecosystem? Because we need a payments protocol. Now, AgentCore Payments is designed to be protocol agnostic, and currently there are a couple of protocols that are supported. So the first one is, let's just drop this in here first. So we've got our protocols. And this is cool, important protocols. And the first one is X402, which is supported in multiple formats or multiple schemes, I should say. So we've got X402. And in preview, it was actually the exact scheme that was supported, meaning it's a fixed price you pay for the consumption, which is great, but not good enough because cloud infrastructure is all about pay per use or pay as you go. So how can we pay per inference? And that's where at GA the up to scheme was added as part of the X402 protocol support. So that's super cool. And then our second protocol is the MPP, so the Machines Payments Protocol, co-authored by Stripe again and Tempo. So any provider that supports MPP, they can actually initiate an MPP payment with Stripe and Privy and so on and so on. So those are the two key protocols supported at the moment at GA. I'm sure there's more to come, including more wallets. Okay, so we've got some of the key components in play from the ecosystem perspective. We've got our wallets, we've got our protocols. How do we actually manage all this? Where are the balance and the checks? And this actually happens at the payment manager or the payment management layer, which is just above the ecosystem layer. So let's have a look. So we have orchestration just here. Orchestration. So this includes things like the connection and so on, or the processing of the payments. So let's drop those in as well. So we've got connection, initiating the connection, terminating the connection, and then the actual processing of the payment. So we'll just put processing in, processing. And then on the opposite side, in terms of balance and checks, we have to actually add in some guardrails. How do we know what our payment limits are? What are the session limits? So all of that kind of stuff comes under guardrails. So let's drop that in here. Guardrails, and that includes things like authorization. So is the agent actually authorized to make that payment? All of that kind of stuff. So let's just put in auth. And we'll talk a bit more about that when it comes to AgentCore and identity and so on and so on. And then spending limits. What's the spending limit the agent has? Is it allowed? Is it, what is it operating within in terms of money expenditure? So let's just put in limits. Remember that AgentCore Payments is designed to be protocol agnostic. Once you, as a developer, you integrate, you can actually work with any merchant regardless of the protocol that they're using, which is why it's structured this way. As I said, there's new wallets coming. There'll be maybe additional enhancements on the protocol side. So it's agnostic from that perspective. You integrate once and you can use and communicate or work with any merchant in terms of their products that they have available via micropayments or services and so on and so on. The other key point to mention here is around authorization and limits and guardrails. Okay, so guardrails are in, orchestration is in, but how we actually manage spending limits and repeat payments by mistake, all of this kind of stuff. And this is really important to understand, especially from a production perspective. So each payment or each transaction runs within its own payment session. There's actually a payment context associated with that, and it's tied to a single agent transaction. In addition to that, there are multiple limits that are being checked. So there's actually a maximum spending limit based on the currency that you have. And then there's also some kind of time expiry. And what happens is before the agent signs off on any payment, it will double check that none of those caps are exceeded. If they are, it will reject that request. In fact, those checks happen at the infrastructure level, so they are deterministic. So from a production perspective, how can we actually deploy this agent at scale, securely, with observability, so on and so on? And that's where AgentCore platform comes into play. So AgentCore Payments is built on the AgentCore platform. So the agent itself is deployed using AgentCore runtime, for example. It's integrated with AgentCore identity. So let's drop that in here. From an authorization perspective, an AgentCore policy, identity, and even AgentCore observability. And observability is key because you want to be able to monitor the transactions, the number of successful transactions. We're just going to say OBS for now, but you want to be able to monitor the average spending limits, what the agent is actually doing across the payment lifecycle, the payment sessions, all of that kind of stuff. So AgentCore Payments is tightly integrated with AgentCore observability. So you're getting your logs, your vended logs sent out to CloudWatch, for example, and the vended span sent to AgentCore observability. AgentCore observability has its own dashboard, so you can actually see the average spend per transaction. You can see the payment sessions. You can actually view the number of transactions per month or whatever that is that are being executed. So you can see that full payment lifecycle and the behavior of the agent, i.e. the spending patterns of the agent as well. In addition to this, AgentCore exposes X402 protocol-based pay-per-use endpoints from Coinbase via an MCP server using the AgentCore gateway. So we'll drop that in right up here as well. So we've got AgentCore gateway. Remember, AgentCore gateway can wrap API endpoints and make them available to AI agents as MCP servers. And then in the case of where, we're trying to access web-based monetized content or stuff like that, there are some agentic AI browsers that require that. We can actually also bring in the AgentCore browser itself right here. Browser. So again, heavily integrated with the AgentCore platform, and that's because it gets you to production much faster. We're integrating identity, observability, scalability with AgentCore runtime, and so on and so on. Okay, so let's assume that AgentCore Payments is integrated with an existing agent. A request comes into this agent, and the agent says, you know what, I've got this request to do, and I need to figure out what relevant tools are available to me. So it will actually ask the AgentCore gateway to say, can you let me know what tools are available to me so I can actually get this job done. AgentCore gateway will have pre-registered tools exposed as MCPs, for example. From this side, like this, we'll just draw a line because it's kind of joining into both ends. The APIs, so let's assume that AgentCore gateway returns a specific API that's available and is going to help with the request. The API itself is going to return a HTTP 402. And you've heard of 404s and blah, 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 but have you heard of HTTP 402? And that's basically a payment required request or response back from your request. Now that's been in the HTTP protocol for 30, 40 odd years, never been used. And now that use case is extremely relevant. So lots of forward thinking done there. So a 402 response comes back, which means that a payment's required. The agent then says, you know what, I have to pay to use this API. And then it initiates the payments manager, which then takes over and handles the connection, the processing of that payment. It double checks against the guardrails. Remember, there are a number of caps and limits involved, like max spending budget, expiry. These are all checked at the infrastructure level, so they are deterministic when they're being tested before any payment is signed off or completed. From an ecosystem perspective, we've got our wallets in play from Coinbase and Stripe Privy. Hopefully they're topped up, so they've got the balances in them to actually allow for that execution and the payment of that, and then the utilization of that API. We've got the currently supported protocols in place, so the X402 protocol, MPP, Machine Payments Protocol, remember co-authored by Stripe and Tempo. While that's all going on, AgentCore identity is in there, making sure that correct permissions are allowed. The agent's allowed to actually pay for that API and utilize that API. We've got ongoing observability via the AgentCore observability service, fully integrated, deploying your logs straight out to CloudWatch logs, and some of the spans back to AgentCore observability. And you've got the AgentCore observability dashboards as well to boot. I'll drop a link to the AWS blog below. Make sure you check it out. If you love the way I'm breaking down some of these new releases and services available from all these different vendors on the lightboard, make sure you hit the follow button. Check out my YouTube channel. Link is in the comments again. We're currently going through a series. I think we're on episode 3 now around AI agent patterns, and I'm breaking them down for you and explaining them out. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one.